Okay, so you said the Chicago PD. You said they're a bunch of sadists. Like they just emptied out a can of spray, pepper spray on a man.
Yeah, a medic.
On a medic.
A medic, field medic.
Jeez.
Deliberately. I mean, it was obvious. It was. The splitter said you looked at the big red cross on the guy's uniform. Sprayed him right down.
What's been your understanding? How long have you lived in Minneapolis for?
Grew up here, 65 years.
65 years.
Yeah.
Okay, so how is the Minneapolis Police Department here changed over time? Like police chief Boza to
Boza came and he was sent in here to reform the damn thing.
Yeah.
Didn't do anything. He'll admit that
he has a quote. He has a quote. I remember him saying, he's like, I couldn't get rid of the alcoholics and the bad guys quick enough. And I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, they were motherfuckers in those days, I guess. Well, of course, and I don't, of course, when I was a kid, I didn't pay attention, but, they had that goofy nothing. They had that drug gang.
The Metro Gang Task Force.
Which I've read about since, because Marcia finally brought it up a lot. And I got intrigued. I was amazed that I knew so little about it, because I was paying attention to my own stuff.
Those dudes were corrupt as
they were a mob.
Yeah. They were like, when you look at I remember, you ever seen the movie Bad Boys with Martin Lawrence and Will Smith?
No.
Well, they bust something and they're like, oh, we found the drugs. And then they take it to this big basement and they put the drugs away in their police basement. Yeah. It's like lock and vault. I always felt like the Metro Gang Task Force was like that. They just had vaults of in
the indictment, which I read.
Yeah.
They stole almost everything they came into contact with. Yeah. They were using all kinds of stuff that was strictly for police only. They got rich on the damn thing.
Yeah. Yeah, they
used it as their own personal little toy, little enrichment service.
I wonder who signed off on that and why that was the idea or the move.
Yeah, it's amazing how many dumb ideas there were in those days. But you got to put yourself back in the early '80s, and New York was just it was a fucking three-ring circus. Minneapolis was the same way. It was Murderapolis for reasons.
Yeah, it was.
And so, what were you going to do about that? Yeah. So it's easy now to say, well, that was stupid as shit. Obviously, it wasn't brilliant in the conception, but it was probably even not as bad. When you think, okay, what do we do? We got to have a special task force to deal with the drugs. What you forget is that cops easily become corrupt by that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Because people forget that cops are just as human as anybody else. I mean, if you're not supervised and watched and asked about your performance once in a while, you go to shed.
Well, the Office of Police Conduct Review here in Minneapolis has a 0.42%. If you send in a complaint, there's a 0.42% chance that cop will be reprimanded.
Right.
The national average is 6 to 7%.
Right.
So we're not even.
Which tells you why we're spending more than St. Paul and most cities on reparations, as you might call it.
Yeah.
As on police brutality.
Oh, because we pay out civil lawsuits. We pay so much money.
Oh, absolutely, it's unbelievable. It's an average of $1 million or $2 million a year.
What does St. Paul spend?
Hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands?
They pay way less.
So
and either their cops are angels, which I doubt.
No, they're not.
Or they just are smarter about getting rid of the people who are extra stupid, or they just don't pay it. I don't mean, maybe because I haven't looked into it. I mean, for all I know, they just don't pay. I mean,
because Minneapolis just paid $27 million to the Floyd family.
Yeah, and
paid $20 million to Justine Damon, which was
a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
So we're just cranking out the dough. I mean, it's like, but it doesn't come. It comes out of the special we pay everybody else fund, and and it's not. And a friend of mine and I are going to go door to door in Linden Hills and say, "Do you like this $27 million in addition to the $20 million? In addition to the, when do you get tired of paying taxes for that?"
Yeah, yeah. And where could that money be going?
Bingo. Where you could go to the roads. It could be pissed away for all that matters.
Yeah.
Do you want it pissed away for that?
No.
For police, you should be.
Well, it's like, what if police had their own personal liability insurance?
Bingo. Problem solved. But of course, in 20 years, we'll find out. Maybe it's a stupid idea.
And then we'll look back and say,
that was stupid as shit. But you don't know until you try it. But who doesn't have? Who else has it?
Yeah.
Teachers have it. Nurses have it.
Yeah, you're right.
Medics have to have it, because if you don't, you run the risk of Good Samaritan suits.
Yeah.
And malpractice.
Yeah.
Everybody who works for Minneapolis who needs insurance gets it through themselves and not through the city. Why do cops have the extra advantage of not being responsible for their own actions, which is adult, normal, and conditions their behavior to a considerable extent?
Yeah.
That's what they should do. Yeah. And some idiot, and I love that because, I love it when outstate people tell people in the city what to do. It's the same in New York.
Yeah.
You get the assholes from above, north of
Upstate.
New Rochelle,
Yeah.
telling New York City how to govern themselves, like New York can probably figure it out. But some idiot in the legislature who was probably otherwise wonderful for all I know, cop lover though. This has only been, am I making this up? But the law saying you couldn't expect them to carry their own insurance was something like 20 years ago.
Okay.
I may be confusing that with
Is it qualified immunity?
that or one of the other issues.
Statute of limitations is one thing that's if a cop kills somebody, then you have 3 years to file a suit. Qualified immunity is the other thing that they have. But so you talk about people being from out of the city. What about Arredondo? He's from here, went to Roosevelt High School.
Right, yeah, he's a local.
Yeah.
But I could, for one thing, he probably is being set up. He's black, that's a disadvantage. And the reason
he had
is,
to file a class action lawsuit.
Well, I know he did.
Yeah.
And that's great. I mean, that speaks well of him, as far as it goes. But because he was being discriminated against, he knew damn well.
Well, they demoted Art Knight, who's a black cop, for he didn't say white boys. He said, if we keep the same hiring practices, we're going to get those same old boys.
Right.
He got demoted for saying that.
Can you imagine?
Yeah.
And white people say worse shit all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Duh.
Well, Bob Kroll. I mean.
Bingo. Thank you.
Bob Kroll
gets up on stage. He's, oh boy, I haven't even asked anybody why it was okay for Kroll to incriminate himself by getting up on stage at the Trump rally.
Yeah.
And practically taking off his chest, his shirt, and beating his chest like a gorilla.
Yeah. Kroll, I mean, that picture will go down in infamy. He looked like the most happy. It was like Christmas. He had just opened up a present, and she's shaking the hand. He looks like he's about to cry. Oh, he just looks like
he's part of that whole crowd that loves Trump to death, which I get, but I don't get. I mean, I understand why they're all angry, but tough shit for you. I mean, you're white, get over it. It's bullshit. I mean, dude, grow up. and he's got a good job. So what is he complaining about in particular? He's like.
Well, it almost shows you what the power is too. The president of the union versus the chief of police.
No kidding.
Like Bob Kroll was.
Oh, he was number one.
Yeah, and even the mayor was like. I just don't approve of Bob Kroll. Bob Kroll's like, we'll
Ryback, for better or worse, never tried to do anything much. I mean, and Betsy Hodges probably was going to, but she couldn't do it.
So take me back to the former mayor before Fry, Betsy Hodges. What was she like?
In a lot of ways, she was terrific. And,
okay.
She was 13th Ward Alderman for about 12 years.
Mm-hmm.
Ran the Ways and Means Committee.
Mm-hmm.
And was absolutely amazing. She and Ryback did amazing work balancing the budget again. Because the budget, every 12 years, this city goes broke.
Yeah.
In that case, it was because the legislature stopped redistributing money.
Yeah.
That's on an even basis or something. So the budget went to shit.
Yeah.
But she was phenomenal.
Okay. Now, why did she run again and lost to Fry?
Yeah. She was running for re-election.
Why do you think the people voted for Fry instead of Betsy Hodges?
She made a bad impression over North.
What did she do?
Well, she
I want to submit this, like, my ignorance.
Yeah.
I have not been one to even pay attention or look the direction of local politics until a year ago. I admit that. I put that out there.
That's pretty
The only thing I really knew about was Keith Ellison, and then when Tim Eggert and Al Franken had the most expensive runoff vote as well.
Oh,
and you just couldn't go anywhere without seeing the commercials. I was just like, man, I'm losing my mind. And then there was the other guy.
It's an acquired taste, local politics anyway.
Yeah, and then there was the other guy, not Arnie Carlson, Norm Coleman.
Norm Coleman. Oh,
Norm Coleman.
Yeah. Oh man, he's so
he kind of he sounded like JFK a little bit.
Yeah, he didn't act like it. And JFK didn't either, but
but
Kennedy was
Coleman,
not that great a president, but he had good chops anyway. So
yeah, but Norm Coleman went from Democrat to Republican.
Oh, bingo,
I just remember seeing that, and I was like, oh goodness.
Boy,
but
that's,
that's my
right,
that's I admit
sure.
that I put that out there. So what did she do over north?
Okay, well, it was the must have been a year before the election. Was the precinct the standoff and the whole deal?
Jamar Clark, yeah.
Yeah, Jamar Clark, and understandably, because that was a real hard situation. She lost control and lost every. I mean, it blew up in her face.
Yeah.
And she's written about what she should have done then, because it's easy to do that after the fact, especially when you're not working. So you have plenty of time to think about it. But boy, God forbid I should go there. But so that's a damn shame. But I think that. But there was also, the same thing happened to Ward 9,
Okay.
Cano's predecessor,
Okay.
who was a phenomenal alderman. I call them aldermen, by the way, which is old-timey because that's
Okay.
what they are, but they're called council members.
Okay,
now.
I was like, okay, I
And
didn't know
that
what you were getting
confuses
at there.
everybody, which is I got to get over that. But and because I'm 65 and I forget everything, but it doesn't matter for the point.
It's okay.
He beat the opposition hands down the first time he ran for council. Couldn't beat Cano when he ran against her last time.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, what happened to you? Hodges was the same way. She ran an unstoppable machine in 13.
Mm-hmm.
She won hands down. She
Yeah.
beat what's his name, classmate of my brother's, without even trying.
Yeah.
She couldn't get off the ground 4 years later.
Yeah.
And that happens.
Well, the
Her
idea
moment
is,
came and went, I guess. I mean, all you can say is she didn't. She wasn't. But she also had the handicap. I mean, this is obvious. She had the handicap of being following Ryback, who was the perfect mayor because he knew the job was 98% PR, and that's Ryback's bag.
yeah.
I mean, as far as, but he also wanted to be mayor since he was 3, and he did everything right. I mean, as far as keeping people interested in what he was up to and stuff.
How long was
And
Ryback mayor for?
he was the second longest serving mayor in history. He was, or third maybe.
Wow.
12 years. Frazier was mayor for 14.
Okay.
And Leach was mayor for at least 15.
Who's Frazier?
Don Frazier was the fifth district congressman for 15 years.
The thing is like, look, when something like, and I don't want to say something, when black men end up being publicly executed,
Right.
I mean, one, it happens, and then it's a tragedy. It's horrific, and it emotionally hits everybody. Everybody surrounding it that sees it is also traumatized for life. You can't turn away and not see that. And then it resonates to whoever's in charge. How did this happen? How did this happen? And so they probably look at Hodges and they're like,
well, yeah,
what's going
essentially,
on
yeah, that's a lot of it. It just happens that she was the mayor at the time.
Yeah.
So you blame her.
I'm assuming there's something she could have probably done about it, because everybody looks at Chauvin and they say, well, Fry could have fired that guy. He could have been like, oh, well, this guy has killed 3 or 4 people. Maybe he should be doing desk work.
Right.
I know. And so it does fall on somebody above, the killer cop.
Yeah, and that's supposedly really the only thing the mayor is supposed to actually by charter does is manage the police. So if you don't do anything else, because the budget, you don't have to come up with a budget. The city council's, like Congress before the Budget Act, they can do that themselves. They don't need any help.
Yeah.
They've got all the departments report to them anyway.
Okay.
But as far as the mayor's job, it's the police.
So Fry's running for re-election. What do you get your money on?
I suppose I'll have to say Fry until I see who else.
Yeah, so Sheila Nazad is running against, and then Kate Knuth, and then maybe some other people?
Yeah, there might be more.
I don't know who else is going.
But he's done a terrible job as far as I'm concerned. And people I know foam at the mouth when they hear his name. But you got to have a candidate to replace him with.
Yeah.
You can't just be angry about it.
That's true. and the thing is like, you can be ticked off about something and be like, I don't like that. But then then the immediate response is, okay, what do you want?
What do you
What's
like?
your plan?
Bingo.
You know,
I've been saying that about the whole council for 5 years. I mean, well, not 5, obviously 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, if 7 out of 13 progressives don't do what you want, where are you going to get the progressives who do?
That's super true. I mean, because everybody's leaning like, well, we're progressive and we're Democrat.
No,
like
you're progressive and you're weak, and you don't do the work.
Yeah.
But if nobody moves to beat you, what's the alternative?
Exactly. So you're looking at a new city council, potentially a new mayor, which will kind of redirect the city. Do you think if Fry goes, Arredondo will go too because they're so tight? Like, they seem like best buds. Arredondo and Fry. I mean,
if I were Arredondo, I wouldn't make that my career move. And to end my career, that'd be stupid. Does he old enough to get the pension? I don't know even how old he is.
And I feel like this is a dream job for Arredondo as well, because he's like, you know what, I grew up here.
Well, yeah. I'm sure he
loves
it to death in some ways.
Yeah.
But boy, it sounds like garbage to me. Of course, I'm not executive material, so I could, it's not like a dream of running something. I can barely clean the house, obviously. So,
but and the fallacy is people are like, "Ooh, are you going to run for city council or mayor?" And like, I mean, I've heard folks ask other people that. I've heard people ask me that. I've heard people ask themselves that.
Oh, yeah.
And like come to me and say, "Man, I've been thinking about running for mayor. What do you think?" And I'm like, do you really want that job?
And I did,
Like, really think about it. You ran for mayor?
Oh, yeah.
When did you run for mayor?
13. I ran against Hodges.
2013?
Yeah.
Holy, what did you get?
You haven't heard that story, have you? It's funny as shit.
No.
Well, in 13, there was no incumbents, so about 85 of us ran. It was literally there were literally 35 candidates for mayor. I was glad I did for a lot of reasons. I'll tell you a few, but people were telling me how to run, and it was all people who don't know anything better, but there was obvious by August that there were issues that weren't being raised significantly, and one of them was police brutality. The other was the sesquicentennial of the city. Are we going to celebrate that, motherfucker, or are we going to let it go by? We let it go by the way.
Really?
150 years the city has been since incorporation. We didn't do anything about it.
Wow.
Which is lame.
That's pretty lame, yeah.
New York would have had a pretty parade in COVID. I mean, they would have gone crazy. But I just up and went downtown in August of 13 and signed up. And in those days it cost $50.
Okay.
And that was why there were 35 of us.
Huh.
But there were fellows like Spider, like Captain Jack. What's his name?
Captain Jack Sparrow.
Sparrow, thank you. I was going to say Spider. No, it's Captain Jack Sparrow, who were interesting to meet because he's an interesting cat. He's got good ideas, and he'll never win anything.
I remember 2013. There was a lot of people running. There was a dude that was like part of like local chant. There was a lot of folks.
Yeah, everybody came out.
Yeah.
So I came in about 18th.
All right. Hey.
Which was credible.
18th out of 35, not bad.
Yeah,
Middle of the pack.
And I didn't lose any worse than the number 2 candidate.
Okay.
Or number 3, let's say.
Okay.
Who spent way more time and money. But I met Bob Fine, which was great fun. Bob's been on the park board for 107 years, and he's really he's been terrific for the city.
That's great.
But it was fun. One time, Bob and I were. There was some kind of interview thing going on. I don't know who it was even. That's stupid. I should remember, but. Over by Lehman Cemetery, and there's in one of the office buildings down there. So I walked in, Bob's in there, said, "What the hell are we here for anyway?" I couldn't remember, Bob couldn't remember, and we just went through with it and didn't get any more votes out of it.
Fair enough.
But I wanted to bring up police brutality, and I did. I mean, I didn't, not effectively, because obviously 3 people heard what I had to say, but I was working at lunch, so I could campaign there.
So that segues perfectly into where we're at right now. We're less than a half mile away from the square, known as George Floyd Square. And what are your memories of May 25th and the few days following after that, being so cllose to it? Like,
okay, well, as usual, I'm walking through the square. I may have heard at Lund's, because I was working. No, I was working. It was Memorial Day. But the next day was Tuesday, so I came through the square. How did this work? He was killed in the middle of the evening or something like that. So I heard in the morning. I heard that there was going to be a rally for this guy who was killed at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
So I was off work by then, and I
Yeah.
came in, and I get there. I came home, I changed, I went down to there about 4 o'clock. Huge crowd already.
I remember getting there too. I rode
Yeah,
my bike in.
huge
And I was like,
fucking
"This is
crowd.
yeah." You couldn't even drive.
You
in.
couldn't get in. I mean, and of course, we all walked down there, but wall to wall.
Yeah.
Literally people from 37th to 39th,
Yeah.
and, you know, where the zone is now,
Yeah.
solid.
Yeah.
And then more came in for the next hour and a half.
Yeah.
And speeches like crazy, people raising holy hell, and it was great. It was moving as hell.
Yeah.
And then the next few nights, it was going down there, seeing what was going on. Things were happening. People were there all night. People would walk by here day and night, all times of the day. If more than 50 at 30 of them were going down to the precinct, you could tell because they just kind of stream along, you know. And then standing around on the street corners with neighbors trying to figure, you know, looking at license plates and and you know.
Do you have a lot of cars with no license plates?
Oh yeah,
coming around
there's
here?
plenty of that down here, and of course, who's burning what? I remember, but I really, I remember even more vividly than that. Coming out of my house in the morning, because the nighttime was kind of pretty scary, but it was more like you were operating on adrenaline.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it wasn't scary, like terrifying. It was more like scary. I'm just so focused on figuring out if we're safe in this neighborhood. But coming out of my house in the morning, like 7 o'clock, fire, fire, fire.
Yeah.
Every single day.
Speedway, speedway, speedway.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was obviously 27th Avenue.
Oh,
Up
yeah,
here
yeah,
was probably 12th. Over here, Speedway, Nicollet, what have you. You know, and then hearing the gunshots and the daggone rubber bullets and the damn the canisters for the daggone.
You know, and
you can hear the motherfucking canisters with the what is
tear
it?
gas.
Thank you, tear gas. 3 miles, a mile and a half away by the crow as the crow flies.
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, and the irony of it is that they didn't get the speedway on 38 in Chicago.
Yeah, no kidding.
They got the one.
Right.
I mean, they even got the one as far as right next to Minnehaha Creek.
Oh gosh, yeah.
See,
Yeah, they got them all over. But I gotta believe. I mean, it's been true since then. I mean, this is the safest corner in town.
Yeah. And I've also seen the videos of people that get out of their car near here, shoot a gun off into the air.
Oh yeah.
And then they just tack it up on the shot spotter.
Oh
and then
sure.
Arredondo and Cano are like,
Yeah.
there's 150 shots last night. And it's like, well, did you see the video of the guy getting out of his car and just going, ga, 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 ga?
Right.
You know, like.
Yeah, it's been happening all year.
Yeah, it's been happening. And then the blame comes to the square.
Right.
What do you believe is the future of the square? I mean, because the idea is that it's not a matter of when, it's more a matter of how. Right?
Oh gosh, yeah, I would say so. And it'll drive a lot of people crazy early on.
Yeah, absolutely.
But and mostly us, the people that are holding the square. And I mean, sooner or later, I suppose it's got to open. It's beguiling to think that we could leave Chicago closed, but it's crazy to think that a major thoroughfare like that would be closed off, even though Nicollet has been for
Portland
70
and Park,
years.
You know, Portland and Park.
Yeah, you can put the bus on there.
Yeah, you just hit.
It's just when you're on Portland, you're way too far from
west,
Chicago.
west,
And there's no other, you can't do it this side. 38th is vital, and it's because it's the connecting bus to all the other buses.
Yeah.
And
do you think they're going to move the statue from the center to somewhere else, or what do you?
Well, you know, the more I think about it, the more you're not going to convince anybody that stays there without destroying half the tax-paying property in this intersection. I mean, unfortunately, it should stay there.
Yeah.
But then, you know, I talked with, I think I mentioned this to Steve Mosing of traffic, but it's only about as wide as a cop.
Yeah.
And so,
what do you mean by it's only about as wide as?
Well, in other words, if a cop were standing there all day, you wouldn't tear down cup to make traffic go around him. You just traffic would just go around him.
Yeah.
But if you without but the trouble really is not so much that the fist would be standing there and kind of interrupting part of a flow of the lane of traffic, but because it'd be something people would want to go up to.
Yeah.
like the Bastille statue in Paris, say, for instance, you can't just let them go wandering over with their kids to see this statue, this fish.
Well, there's traffic.
Bingo, because they'll all be killed. So you got to move the thing where it's safe for people to look at it, and that would be, I don't know, St. Name's Cemetery or someplace. I don't know where it was.
Lisa Bender is known as like very pro bike lane, pro pedestrian.
Right.
And this is going to sound, and a lot of people are trying to co-opt, the movement as different things for different agendas and whatnot. Why hasn't she stepped up to say, you know what, shut this whole place down, pedestrian only, I don't even want to hear about it? Why isn't that an option actually? Like, couldn't they actually say, you know what, let's just respect the square, or just turn it to like pedestrian only? Or I mean, like, I know that the businesses have a say in it, everybody has a say in it. Why don't you think they've stepped up and like just been like, you know what?
Well, for one thing, I mean, the common narrative of the square notwithstanding, I think most people around here that I talk to who aren't active up there, wouldn't be for that. I really don't think that's a majority view. And of course, that's not the point now. Mm-hmm. The point now is hold it until we get something for it.
Yeah, or you get some modicum of justice.
Bingo. I mean, whatever you want. I mean, justice is what I want. But if you want, free pizza for next Thursday, I mean, you hold it for that. I mean, it doesn't fucking matter what you're holding it for. We're not giving it up. I mean, who cares? But I mean, the justice is the agenda, obviously.
Yeah, exactly.
But
exactly.
I don't know if anybody. Well, I shouldn't say it. We had that so-called survey in August, which brought back in my neighborhood, in this part of the neighborhood anyway, predictably varied responses, like all across the map.
Well, the survey was somewhat of it was
from the cities was a publicity gimmick. Ours was kind of, let's see if anybody agrees with us. We turned out when they didn't.
And then they could say, hey, we talked with the community.
Yeah.
We at least asked them.
But that's,
open it up.
That's the game always. I mean, that's how it works.
Well, we did not do anything.
Right. So the surveys were kind of pointless, but and I've got them in my house, by the way.
Yeah. I mean, the survey was basically like, open it up this way or open it up that way.
Yeah. Well, and ours was three-way. Did we open it up at all?
Yeah.
Which bit? So ours was a little more interesting.
And they actually shut down the survey. You had to write in "No justice, no streets" or something like that.
Yeah, that's. But as far as the long term, I mean, those who need the bus need the bus. But they didn't get a bus in Montgomery for 14 months either. So it's not like that's
unprecedented.
Unprecedented. Of course, if you want to make change, you got to make problems for people, because that's nobody makes changes without a pain.
So throughout
a lot of hassle.
Yeah, no. So throughout your 65 years of living in this city, have you ever seen anything like this before?
Oh fuck no. There has been, sort of.
Okay.
The Avenue was crazy, but that was just a blowout, rock throwing spree.
And then they had the bulldozer.
And then they completely destroyed Plymouth Forever as a commercial strip. That was big.
After Jamar Clark?
No, I'm talking about 67.
Oh, 67. What happened there?
The usual 60s burning spree.
Okay, there was a 60s.
It was justified, but I mean, then what happened with those neighborhoods is mostly what happened with Plymouth Avenue. It was completely gutted, and it looked like shit for until about 2 years ago.
What was the impetus for burning everything?
Well, it was what was the specific incident? It was either police or a store owner saying something stupid about a black kid.
Oh, so it was race related.
Oh fuck yeah.
Okay, good.
So they burned the rowdies burned the holes, but and of course in those days everybody blithely thought, oh, we'll build it up. Well, we'll do nothing because the investors aren't that stupid, and the money went elsewhere. And the city had already destroyed the real strip, which was 6th Avenue North, which is where Olsen is now. They did the state leveled that.
Yeah.
That's where all the original Jewish businesses were.
Yeah.
And the black ones. So then Plymouth gets them, sort of, and then Plymouth was destroyed in 67. It literally hasn't looked the same since.
No. So with that being the only thing that's even closely...
But this is unprecedented, in a lot of ways, because nobody's ever held a street like this before.
No, they haven't.
Anywhere, except Paris.
Where in Paris?
And it didn't last this long in Paris.
No, something's happened because the idea is that if they were to come and open up the street, at a certain point in time,
right,
there's some resistance in them because the world is watching. It's not just the states watching or the country's watching. The world is watching.
Right.
And because the world is watching, there's this new level of accountability or...
Oh, yeah. That sobers you up.
Yeah.
Not to mention, I mean, if we leave, what's going to happen? Nothing, because the city still has to take the barricades away.
Yeah, they still got to do that.
They won't go. They'll still be there.
Yeah.
So why would we leave? We have to tell people, if nothing else, we have to direct them around the barricades.
Yeah, and it's almost like...
Which we're not going to lift up off the asphalt and move somewhere.
No, what, the 2,000 pounds, 3,000
bingo.
pounds?
They weigh, it takes 16 people to move the damn thing.
Yeah, so the idea that you're going to get people to just... That you can put the accountability on the people for holding the square, it's like, those barriers are there by the city.
Who put these there?
Yeah.
The city. For a good reason, and they were, I don't remember if they were asked to, but they did it. They're here. The city just admitted they weren't moving them till after the trial, one of the trials.
Yeah.
So, deal made.
Yeah.
We'll be there.
Do you believe Derek Chauvin will be held accountable for what he did?
Oh boy, it's hard to believe. This is the US of A after all.
He's up for Man 3, Murder 3, and Murder 2.
Because the question is not whether he killed somebody. We all know he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, obviously everybody saw it. Yeah. The point is, was he guilty of one of the 3 counts of murder, which is a totally different thing. You remember that there's a way you can get out of murdering somebody point blank and claim you're insane for up to 10 minutes.
That's true.
And that's the law. So
claim
he
insanity.
isn't necessarily guilty of the law, of the crime of murder.
Yeah.
I would hope he is, but because God forbid he should go get off scot-free. But I don't know anything about that.
If he walks,
yeah,
we'll most likely see what we saw a year ago.
Well, I hope not, because that'd be stupid as shit.
Yeah.
I mean, it would solve nothing. It would prove nothing. But you're not going to get me to tell you what should happen.
Yeah. People are going to process however they're going to process.
Yeah, they're going to have to process that, and people are going to be just mystified as to why. But there was a case, this is how it works. There was a case in St. Paul, which you may have read, and it was in the Spokesman, and I finally have the copy of it. A guy from somewhere else drove down University Avenue. He hit the bumper of a black man's car on University Ave. They talked, they yelled at each other, they got in their cars, they drove on. He gets out of his car a few blocks away. He goes up to the dude and he shoots him right in the head.
Or
wherever.
When was this?
This was a couple years ago. The first trial.
Oh.
Did Marsha mention this at one of the meetings?
Yeah.
The jury of 12, only one of them thought he hadn't done it, or wasn't guilty, or whatever. The 11 thought he was guilty as charged. One of them wasn't, so it's mistrial. They got to do it all over again.
I remember reading that.
But he's off so far because, of course.
Yeah, it was the white kid with the glasses.
Bingo. But white people all look like they're killers. So of course, and most of them are. So they kill something. I'm not saying they kill humans, but but
kill your time, kill your spirit.
Kill rabbits, goats, your wife.
Fair enough.
A fish, whatever.
Yeah. But I mean, so he
got off.
He could possibly walk. They gotta have another trial.
Yeah. Like, what do you need to know? And of course, the defense was, as usual, I was afraid this guy had a gun.
Feared for my life.
Feared for my life.
Feared for my life.
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
So that's this country. So if you think, then of course Chauvin's guilty. Heard of Colfax? I mean, what do you need to know?
Who's Colfax?
Colfax massacre. I mean,
what's that?
Louisiana, 1870.
Okay, nice.
Destroying the whole town because blacks were getting a good deal out of Reconstruction.
Oh yeah, and then there's also Black Wall Street.
Every other place in the United States.
Yeah, anytime black folks,
black folks get
building and making advancements, burn it down.
Wilmington, North Carolina. Tulsa, bingo.
Yep. Yeah.
Duluth.
Christ, Duluth. People. So sundown towns started in Minnesota. Like a lot of people believe, as we wrap up on this, that Minnesota, and you've come to know it, obviously throughout your life, as like, this is the North. We're peaceful and democratic, and we're not racist here. But this is one of the most racist states in the country.
Oh yeah, it always has been too. Because it was the most anti-Semitic city in the country.
Wow.
And Humphrey put an end to that shit. Yeah, that was leadership, by the way.
How did
I'll
Humphrey
throw
put an
that
end to
out to
anti-Semitism?
any public official who wants me to slap him up the side of the head. Humphrey, my mom talked about this all the time because he thought Jew hate was stupid as shit.
Yeah.
Hubert won his second campaign for mayor in 45, immediately set up the Fair Employment Practices Commission,
Okay.
which said, Jews don't get fucked with, period. Boom, I said so, that's how it's going to be. It would also pertain to blacks because, of course, what was her name? Lucy Johnstone Johnson was one of his campaign aides, and became school board rep that year. But he immediately solved the Jew hate problem in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And then, of course, 3 years later, he went down to the convention in wherever that was, Los Angeles or someplace. Insisted that the Democratic Party put a civil rights statement in the platform, knowing Strom Thurmond would take most of the Southern delegates with him, daring him to leave, daring him to defeat Truman in the fall. Thurmond ran, Truman beat him anyway. So fuck yourself for not having principles, because it's worked twice for Hubert to have them.
Yeah. So this used to be an anti-Semitic town.
Yeah. Oh, it was unbelievable. Because they have to be careful. I mean, they're aware of that shit. It's always around. But it was just unbelievable. But so you can then. So we like to think of this town as being, like a fairyland of racial justice. It's garbage. I mean, it doesn't happen.
It's not.
It's baloney.
Well, and when you saw, what I call the murder of George Floyd, when you saw that happen, everything came to fruition. I mean, came to light. Bob Kroll, Fry, passing over killer cops. How many killer cops are actually on the force still?
Yeah. Oh, it all comes out. And it should have come out before, though. I mean, why does it take a guy to be murdered for that stuff to be common knowledge?
Exactly.
That's stupid. I mean,
So to wrap up, unfortunately, history repeats itself sometimes. What do you see as the future for Minneapolis?
Well, there's obviously what I'd like to see.
Yeah, what would you like to see?
Here's what I'd like to see. Justice, period. Reform the cops. Do whatever you have to do. And to hell with the law. I mean, to hell with the law. The law privileges assholes.
Yeah.
And fuck it. I don't care. I mean, I really don't care anymore about the law. Your law is bullshit to me. You do it for justice or don't do it.
Yeah.
I'm really sick of that. I mean, and people like, well, I won't call names, but, Republicans taking away your rights. It's legal, I guess.
Yeah.
But fuck you. You can't do that.
They just took away basic rights to vote.
Bingo. Yeah, they're doing that, and they're bold as brass about it.
Yeah.
And that's law. Then the hell with the law. We'll just do it anyway and go to hell. I mean, South Carolina's been doing it for 175 years. Every law they don't like, they say, we're not going to obey that, so fuck you, and they do it and they get away with it. Always. Have you ever known Mississippi to obey the law as far as we're giving black folks a good shake? You never have.
No.
Because it never happened.
No.
And they never confuse the issue by saying, no, we don't do that. No, they keep it straightforward and say, no, we hate blacks, so of course we're going to do that.
Yeah. Whereas in Minnesota,
here, we goof around and we say, well, we love people, but not really, because they take over.
And the thing is that in the South, I was born in New Orleans. I was saying this in a speech a week ago. The one thing I appreciate about overt racists, if there's anything to be appreciated about it, is that at least they mark themselves as such.
Right. That's similar to this, what I've been thinking for years and years about. You could tell that racists in the old days of Jim Crow South especially had a value system that wasn't focused on money. Because anybody who'd loved money more than hating black folks would have had one school system that was pretty good instead of two, one really shitty one for blacks and one pretty good one. It cost them more money to be racist.
Yeah.
It was a principle to them. It was obviously a principled stupid principle and evil. But it didn't cost them any money to be assholes.
Yeah.
Racist and set up a really what New Orleans was like. I barely know it, but it's the same deal. I mean, are you kidding?
So you're saying here
nowadays we just have it's money lost and that's it. But the Republicans still will take your vote if they can get away with it.
So you're saying here it costs less to be racist?
Well, you're damn right it does.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah, obviously.
It costs less to be racist in
Because,
Minnesota. So
partly because black, well, there's a lot of reasons. But, blacks are what is it? It's like 15% of the population of the city and 3% of the state, something like that.
Well, check this out. 62% of the kids in Minneapolis public schools are kids of color.
I know it. It's huge.
I mean, it did.
Yeah, that's an interesting fact. No,
Yeah.
Most of the schools are segregated, though.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a conversation for
Yeah, no fucking kidding. Because it would run on too long.
Well, and the CDD is about to redline North Minneapolis.
Yeah.
Which is a conversation for another time. Well, thank you so much for the time. I know you're busy and you're usually on a bus somewhere, and I hope we have this conversation again on this wonderful porch.
Oh yeah.
So thank you for the time.
We'll chat
man.
again one day.